Good evening. This is Rudy Giuliani, and this is America's Mayor live from Palm Beach. So let's start. We left off on the Rudy Giuliani show with Ukraine. So let's start with Ukraine. We didn't really finish the whole analysis of it, and we'll never finish the whole analysis of it. This is a 1,000-year dispute as to whether Russia owns Ukraine. And honestly, it's not about whether Ukraine is independent. It's about whether Ukraine owns Russia. Because they both, the original, if you look at the map here, the original, this is undisputed, the original delivery of Christianity, conversion to Christianity around, I'm speaking very broadly now, but around the 1000th century, 1,000 years after Christ, the 11th century, was here. That's Kiev, or Kiev. And then Moscow's not on this map, it's all the way over here. And then they moved here, and the church eventually located here. And, a lot of the czars didn't like Moscow. I don't know if Kiev ever became the capital of Russia again. But St. Petersburg, which is up here, became the capital of Russia under Peter the Great. And a lot of Russians preferred living in Ukraine to living in Russia. I guess the climate's a little easier. The agriculture is fabulous. At times, Ukraine was known as the breadbasket of Europe. It's been an enormously productive country. It also is blessed, like Kazakhstan. There are certain areas of Russia that are absolutely useless, right? Like there are any country, I guess. And there are certain areas of Russia that are unbelievably wealthy. Well, Ukraine's got a lot of that. And so there are a lot of reasons, also including, if you look at it on the bigger map, the bigger European map, you'll see that it's a protection. The real animosity that always existed was not necessarily between Ukraine and Russia. It was between Poland and Russia. Now, there's a reason for that. Ukraine largely and Russia share the same religion, the Orthodox religion. Poland is Roman Catholic. Poland has spent most of its time from the time they became Orthodox in trying to convert them. And I think regretting that they weren't the ones that showed up in Kiev first to make it Roman Catholic. So particularly under the leadership of the Jesuit order, which formed around the 17th century, there were all kinds of incursions in here. And they had some degree of success in Ukraine, which is about 10% Roman Catholic, maybe bigger Roman Catholic than that, but certainly not as big as the Orthodox. And in Russia, it may be as 5% Roman Catholic. So this has been a big source of dispute between them. The end result, which we might as well get to, the end result is the debate here is going to be about three things. It's going to be about territory, security guarantees, and mineral rights. Territory means will Russia give back any of the territory they captured? And this territory they captured is the darker area on the map, which could be known as a direct and complete roadway to Crimea. Here's Russia. There's Crimea. The Russians believe really deep down, really deep down, the Russians believe that Crimea belongs to them. They believe Ukraine belongs to them, but they believe even stronger that Crimea belongs to them. And the areas that they took of Ukraine are heavily populated with ethnic Russians. And when Ukraine was not occupied by Russia in any respect at all, those areas would traditionally vote for the Ukrainian candidate who was pro-Russian. So the places they've taken are not completely alien. We're going to want some of that back. Just first of all, to get a really good negotiation, it doesn't look like Putin got everything he wanted. He should give something back. Second, if Ukraine can hold on to Kursk, they're going to have to give him something back to get Kursk back, which the Ukrainians very, very opportunistically took from them. And finally, there's a real interest for us in taking back a certain region of this country because there's a certain region here of the country that has minerals. So 2/3 of the minerals we don't have a problem with. We're going to get 50% of those, and they're in the main part of Ukraine that hasn't been taken by Russia unless something unbelievable happens. But 1/3 is hidden in that area there that you're looking at. And I am sure that the president constantly saying that Putin's got to give territory back. I'm sure they're looking at this territory right there. That's largely, not completely, but the Donbass region, Donetsk, Luhansk. Those areas contain disproportionately large amounts of the minerals that we need to compete effectively with China to be dominant in technology. So aren't you impressed with the unbelievable level of strategy that Trump has in the deals that he puts together? God, it's so way beyond the capacity of the jerk-off who was there before him. What I just said to you, go back to when I used to negotiate the 1994 crime bill with him. He'd retain one fact. A pretty girl walked in. That's what he would remember. But for him to remember all this, even if I drew it out like this for him, I'll tell you sometime my discussion with him on Star Wars or nuclear defense, which he never understood. So, I don't know how many of Trump's campaign promises he's already capped. And some of them, he has to keep over a whole administration, but he said he was going to secure the border. The border is secure. He set a record last month of February, for the least number of crossings ever. You can't do better than that. Now he said he would get rid of all the illegals. He's doing that. And he said he'd particularly get rid of the illegals who were criminals or who were hostile to the United States or a threat to our national security. Now, unless you are a left-wing Democrat in New York judge who doesn't care much about the United States, like the judge who decided that we should wait to throw this guy out, I don't know what Mahmoud Khalil has to do to convince you that he hates America and therefore doesn't have a right to have the privilege of being here. He has no right to be here. He wasn't born here and he isn't a citizen. It's a privilege for him to be here. If you made it a right for him to be here, the whole world could walk in here and swallow us up. Now, there are people that are so unrealistic and stupid they would let that happen. But those people should not be in public office, and God forbid they should have no responsibility for the lives and safety of other people, even their families. So this guy has led demonstration after demonstration that involve fires, things burned down. The damage he's done in his riots are considerably worse than any of the J6 people. He's assaulted police officers. Oh, my God. Wasn't that something that if you assaulted a police officer, if you assaulted a capital section police officer, you should go to jail for 42 years. But if you assault a New York City cop, you get the Congressional Medal of Honor, according to the Democrats. I mean, I haven't seen too many film of police being assaulted, really assaulted by the J6 people. I've seen plenty of picture of these guys trying to kick the shit out of cops. I also don't see anything burning on J6. Almost every rally they have, they burn something, and they had some pretty bad ones at Columbia. And finally, okay, they say they were obstructing the vote. Well, they did the vote. The kids in Columbia couldn't go to school. And the Jewish kids, if they aren't frightened, they're not human. And why are we perpetuating, probably without any doubt, certainly in Western civilization, the biggest sin that you can think of, which is the hatred, the insane, irrational, sick, pathological hatred of the Jewish people? Why are we tolerating that? We don't owe this guy anything. He owes us a lot. We let him come from Syria, which is a country with a lot of people who hate us, and a country that's right now massively killing Christians, and we're doing shit about it. And we're giving him all these breaks. The president of the United States has determined that he is a threat to our national security. That's enough. The immigration to the United States is an executive function. We have 3 branches of government. Judiciary has no role in it. Nobody appointed judges to figure out who should and shouldn't be in the United States. Congress can make laws, but there are enough laws for the president to come to the determination that this guy's dangerous to our country. Who can come to that determination better than anybody else? The president. And so a court would have to find that there was no reasonable basis for Marco Rubio or Donald Trump to come to the conclusion this guy is a threat to our national security. Now, that is intellectually impossible. In other words, you have to be intellectually dishonest to say there's no reasonable basis. You can say you don't agree with it. You can say you don't think it's enough, but that the guy led 20 demonstrations in favor of a registered terrorist group, which is dedicated to the taking the lives of Americans and is dedicated to the destruction of our greatest ally, Israel. That the guy has participated in riots and participated in demonstrations where maybe we can't prove he lit the match, but he started the riot that led to the fire. That those demonstrations materially interfered with young people getting their education, and in particular frightened the living daylights as it would any young person again for Jewish people, and reignited the sick aspect of anti-Semitism that is only going to serve to divide the American people. And then I can give you 10 other reasons. There is no way an intellectually honest judge doesn't defer to the discretion of the president in a situation like this. And if he doesn't, he's trashing the Constitution. So, Judge, I don't know what the hell is going on, but my experience with judges in New York is horrifying. I know people would think I'm overstating it if I say that my own personal experience in New York and being before judges there, well, what I watched with President Trump was, I don't know, I might have had a better chance in the Soviet Union. I had no chance. I mean, I walked into court and I knew what the decision was going to be. In 2 of my cases, the judge had already written the opinion before my lawyer even finished the argument. He just read it right from the bench, which meant my lawyer's argument was just bullshit. I have a case in which I was found liable without a trial. I was found liable before I even entered the court. Right? Well, going along with this is taking $564 million from Colombia with the possibility of taking the full $1.5 billion. I'm in favor of that. Colombia doesn't need $1.5 billion. They're just using it to make our kids Marxists. They're using it against the best interests of the United States. They don't train good American citizens. And what the hell is wrong with a college training good American citizens? That's what education is supposed to be for. It's one of the ways in which we hold together our society, our culture. Illegal protesters should be expelled from the United States when they're not citizens. And when they commit crimes, they shouldn't be set free the way every single one was at Columbia, all the other universities, or in the summer of 2020. Is there a reason they're set free? Did Soros pay for that? Now you say, Giuliani, why are you charging poor old Soros? I mean, Soros, not a bad guy. I mean, okay, when he was young, he just sent Jewish kids off to their death. But since then, he's been like a really good guy. He corrupted 4 or 5 Eastern European governments. He's taken about 50 cities. And okay, he's responsible for more black deaths probably than anyone in modern America by reducing the policing, by changing the laws, by putting in crooked DAs so that black murders go up 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. He's responsible for Philadelphia setting a record for murder in the long history of Philadelphia twice in a row. And 80% of the people murdered are black people. Same thing in St. Louis and Rochester. Chicago's not far behind. That's also a Soros DA. Weekends are it's just a guess as to how many people are going to die on the weekends. And 70, 80% of them in the black community. Just a question of how many and how fast. And do we have 5 people dead or 25? So these people are dangerous to the United States of America, and their visas should be revoked, and they should be thrown out of the United States. And the president should have the authority to do that, and he does under the Constitution. We'll be right back.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month.
Wow.
Including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news, even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax, channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly, where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast. These deals are...
U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnels to Towers.
To celebrate the new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely.
This is Rudy Giuliani, and we're back with another segment. And I tell you, the Trump administration doesn't make many mistakes, even little ones. Now, this one has to be attributed to the guy being a kid, but it was really an embarrassment more than a mistake. Our relationship with Russia, our relationship with Israel can sustain this. But Adam Boehler, going off by himself, negotiating with Hamas. I don't know Adam Boehler, which says something. What the hell was he thinking? He wanted to get hostages back. Now, I don't know how old he is. I don't even know what he looks like. He sounds like he's about 12. And he goes over and he starts negotiating with Hamas. Okay, all right, that's kind of stupid. You don't bring, I mean, there's only one American left and all the rest are Israelis. The relationship between Israel and the United States should be like that. No daylight, not that much. Every idiot should know that, right? Boehler, you should have known that. He goes and he starts negotiating. And he says, when he's asked why, well, we have, separate interests from Hamas. From Israel. What? Now, Bibi is mature enough and is secure enough, particularly, maybe this would have been a big problem with Biden, but he knows it. He knows when the kid said it, I knew it was like crazy. But a lot of the people in Israel don't know that. So Israel went nuts. What's going on? I mean, gosh, he doesn't even know about. He's gonna get the American, and then are people just gonna be? You don't do this. You surely don't do this to an ally who, and this is not Trump's fault. This was Biden's fault. We are America. You don't do this to an ally who's been carrying out water for the last year. If America had its way, Hamas would still exist. Hezbollah would be as powerful as it was when we started. Assad would still be in Syria running the government for Iran and China and Russia. The Houthis would be flying, 3 missions a day to blow up our ships and every other Western ship. And Israel maybe would have made some progress against Hamas. But remember, from day one, the United States, in the person of Biden and Blinken, from even before he attacked, said we should do a ceasefire. Now, actually, they wanted him to do a no fire. To do a ceasefire before you fire it is a no fire. They basically didn't want him to invade Gaza, which means Gaza would have been left just the way it was when they sent in people to kill 1,200 Jewish, mostly women and children. The men who were killed and the soldiers who were killed were collateral damage. And then they weren't just killed. They were beheaded. They were raped. The children were killed in front of the parents. The parents were killed in front of the children. They were taken off separately and led to believe that their children were alive and their children show up dead in a coffin. And then a guy is not told that his wife is dead. And they send the wrong woman, the wrong body. And then when they're moving the bodies through the streets of Gaza, what's ever left of Hamas is cheering and acting like they're devils. And this guy says, we have a separate interest with them. Then I'm going to tell you why I think he's a silly kid. Afterwards, he says, they actually were nice guys. But you just can't say that because they're terrorists. I think there's another line of work for him. Please don't have him responsible for the lives and safety of Americans, please. I don't know if Biden had anybody worse than that. So get him the hell out of there. And I see that the Secretary of State has said, and it's so nice. I love Rubio. There's a beautiful way to say it, much better than I would ever have said it. This was a one-off. I don't know what a one-off is in diplomacy. Like, it was just crazy and wrong, and everybody makes a mistake. But I want to assure Israel that we're together on this, and we greatly appreciate the fact that you did our work for us in exposing Iran for the paper tiger that they are. Now we got to do the work with you and destroy them. Get the Ayatollah out and get a free government in there. And also, don't fool yourself. You're not going to have peace in the Middle East as long as the reign of terror is there. So long as the Ayatollah and the mullahs and the religious theocracy, which is no different than a political ideology becoming homicidal like Nazism or communism. Don't get fooled because they call it a religion. And also go read some parts of the religion that justify it, which should be changed. A lot of modern Muslims change it, but a lot don't. And you leave those parts in the Quran about Muhammad killing people and Muhammad doing mass murders and Muhammad doing mass graves with Jews, and then you're going to get wackos like this who go off and do it. So there's a lot of work that has to be done, but we sure shouldn't be on their side, and they aren't nice guys. Every one of those people he was talking to has been trained since they were 2 years old to kill him. And if they had the opportunity, they would kill him. And this guy is living in some kind of a strange world. The same world, I guess, that those demonstrators are living in when they're demonstrating in favor of a group of murderers against the United States. So the fact that the president today he had the I'm trying to remember the Taoiseach of Ireland with him. So this should have been just a very friendly. The Irish are wonderful people. They've contributed a lot to America. The usual. Instead, I don't know how long the press conference was. It was like he's so open and so transparent. And he just went on and on and on. And every once in a while, he talked about Ireland, but he talked about the agreement and why he thinks Putin should agree. He talked about these demonstrators should be thrown out of the United States. And then, just to see if you can find this, Ted. This is one of the things that it won't be in his greatest moments, but it will be in. If you did a biography or a documentary of Trump, and you wanted something that really revealed what he's like, this would be a moment in it. He's asked in front of the Taoiseach, which means Prime Minister of Ireland. He's asked, do we have unfair agreements? Does Ireland have unfair agreements with us? Because he's talking about why the tariffs are necessary to straighten out the unfair agreements. So some other president would have lied, or maybe give it a better been diplomatic. He says straight out in a nice way, yes. The Taoiseach, who seemed like a very nice guy, just a kind of a usual politician, where the guy went like this. I thought they were going to stick something in his mouth, and then he sort of straightened it out a bit. He looked at it and said, "It's not your fault. It's our fault because we had jerks negotiating. You took advantage of them. I'd have done the same thing. You had jerks negotiate, I'd take advantage of you. Yeah, Ireland has terrible agreements. I mean, they've taken away a great deal of the pharmaceutical industry from us. You know, Pfizer's main factory is in Ireland. I mean, they picked a hell of a country. And of course, the reporters wouldn't know because they're really stupid. Since they became so ideologically on one side, I think they don't think they have to do any research. They don't have to look at anything. To even ask them, do we have any unfair agreements with Ireland means you don't know. This is one of the countries that has raped the United States more than any other. The reason I am angry about it is Pfizer was one of the biggest Fortune 500 companies in New York. Not only in New York, it started in Brooklyn, New York. Its factory in New York is a block and a half long. And they use maybe that much of it now because to make medicine in New York makes medicine even more expensive than it is already. So it's completely our fault. And when I say Ireland raped us, no, they didn't. They took advantage of our saying, yeah, you can have you can have it, and you can put a 50% tariff on our medicines that we send over. But we like Ireland, so we won't put any tariffs on you. And now, 3,000 people in Brooklyn don't have a job anymore unless they want to go live in Ireland. And Brooklyn continues to decline, and New York continues to decline. When I came into office, New York had a very, very solid record of not gaining a new Fortune 500 company in 20 years and losing 20. I don't know what it is now, but I can't think of a Fortune 500 company that would remain one for very long if they decided to come to New York. So, yeah, he's absolutely right to say it was our fault. But who would be as honest and as straightforward as that? And he said, by the time we're finished, we'll straighten it out. He looked into the Taoiseach. I got to look at the tariffs. Whatever you're charging us, we're going to charge you. I think the guy was about ready to faint. First of all, he probably doesn't know what the tariffs are. Most of these guys, spend their time going to parties, and God forbid they should look at a budget. He probably doesn't know what the tariffs are. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm being unfair, but it didn't look that way. He just knew this was going to be a problem. He said, tell me how you argue with reciprocal tariffs. So I manufacture these pens. This is my business. See, I manufacture these pens. And I'm going to sell them to Ireland. And when I sell my pens to Ireland, and I got 20,000 people making these pens in New York or in Florida. And when I sell them to Ireland, they charge 20% more for the pen. But they also make these pens in Ireland, and they sell them to Florida. And we don't put a tariff on it. So you can buy these. So now here in Florida, you got Giuliani pens and you got the Irish pens, and the Irish pens are 20% less. Not because I spend more manufacturing them or they spend less, but because their government put a tariff on us and my government didn't protect me. So now, over a period of time, my 1,000 people who live here don't have a job anymore. And I don't have a business, and I go try to find another business where my government isn't screwing me that way. You tell me how we hurt the economy if we put a 20% tariff on them, and then ultimately maybe both tariffs come off, and we both get to sell here. I get the advantage of being closer to the consumer, so maybe it'll help the domestic industry. And they get the ability to sell here. And if they can make it cheaper, really cheaper, without the government subsidizing them, fine. That's what he's trying to do. That is not what they're saying it is. In fact, it is free trade. Free trade is not manipulated trade. This is like saying a basketball game is free and fair. If I go down the court and I score a basket and I get 2 points, you go down the court and you score a basket and you get 10 points. Now, are we having a free basketball game? Of course we're not. We're having an unfair basketball game, which is very unfree. It's like I'm living in a dictatorship. And why the Wall Street Journal in particular is going through a hissy fit over tariffs is amazing because they're smarter than that. There are downsides to tariffs and there are upsides to tariffs. And so far, he's been remarkably brilliant or lucky that he's gotten tremendous upsides. He's gotten about 8 businesses that are coming to the United States because they don't want to pay the tariff in Mexico. Also, I think I'd rather be in America than Mexico, right? Wouldn't you? So we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to have a very, very special guest. And I'm not even going to tell you who it is. I'm not even going to tell you who it is. And I bet you're going to know who it is the minute he comes on. We'll be right back.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. This is Rudy Giuliani, and I'm back with you. And I know you know this man, Mike Lindell, who's here in Palm Beach and stopped by to say hello, and always have lots of things we want to ask him about. So let's begin with what you just said to me. So a lot of people think, well, Trump was elected and the lawfare's over now.
Right.
Everything's over. Everything is straight. It all happens like this.
Right.
So tell them what they're doing to you in Minnesota.
Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible. We're getting, I'm getting attacked by Keith Ellison, the Attorney General of Minnesota. He went after my Lindell Recovery Network.org, full-blown audit, attacking everything. The IRS has come after me the last, they just turned it up the last 4 months. They want like 6 years of tax returns, during all the attacks. And
why are they going after your taxes?
They're going after, are you familiar with the employee retention credits?
Yeah. The ones that had to do with the pandemic?
Yeah, with the China virus.
Sure.
I call it the China virus, but anyway.
Yeah.
So here we have this virus, and companies that stayed open, like My Pillow did, we stayed open, and in 22 and 23, these third-party companies said, there's money available that you stayed open from the government, and you get these employment retention credits because you stayed open. Well, what happened was that year in 22 and 23, you got these checks, you reported them on your taxes. Now the government came in. When Biden left, they said, you know what? Anybody that got checks in 22, 23, and 24, you got to go back and put that income back in 20 and 21. So in other words, here's what it manifests to. You got to redo 5 years of tax returns. Any employees of mine that had stock in My Pillow or any company across the country would have to do all them taxes, and you would pay income tax on money you didn't receive until 22, 23, or 24. It's bizarre.
You pay the income tax now?
You have to pay it now for back then in 20 and 21, even though you didn't get the money then.
And you have to file an amended return.
5 amended returns.
I remember I had to do this. I had to do this once because I left something out. It all amounted to like $4,000 or $5,000. They had to do 4 returns
For
to put them in the right
because
year. I
right.
said, well, let me just pay you that with interest.
But here, this is how bad this is. It affects probably 70% of the country. My pillow's at the tip of the spear. I told the IRS guy, I said, no one's going to do this. I said, this is crazy. To redo the returns, and people will owe money they don't have from back then
Oh, they do
because they didn't get the money. Yeah, oh yeah. But he said, I said, no one's going to redo this. And he goes, well, you are, Mike. Oh, this is the IRS guy. So right now I'm working with the Justice Department, the Treasury Department. I'm working with the Treasury Department, and we're going to put a stop to it.
Isn't this an unnecessary, very burdensome? I mean, you think about it now, just you, but you spread out across the entire economy.
And all the IRS, it's a waste of money because your taxes are already paid. Just pay the taxes on the year you got the money. That's all you have to do. It's unbelievable, and I'm so upset. But I'm once again the tip of the spear. Let's attack my pillow, and because their CEO will not shut up about the stolen elections. That's it.
Yeah,
that's the whole reason.
And I thought that Keith Ellison was in Russia by now, or no, not Russia, China. Russia's not even communist. I mean, in China.
He's something else.
I remember he was in Congress, right?
Yeah. He's went after now my Lindell Recovery Network.
Did he change? I mean, he was a communist in Congress.
Oh, he didn't change. He hasn't changed. He's worse.
You should also know he's the Attorney General of a state that is a sanctuary for mutilating children. Yeah. So if you are worried and you have a child between the ages of whatever and 18, they can go to Minnesota, they can be mutilated, and you never find out about it. Because you're only the parent. Mm-hmm. And under Tampon Tim and this guy, Red Ellison.
Yeah, exactly. It's the worst.
They are, in the words of Karl Marx, your kids are property of the state.
100%. It's been Minnesota, all the states, I went to them all during this last 4 years, and everyone says, we have the worst governor, we have the worst attorney general, we have the worst secretary of state. Well, I will put Minnesota right in the top 4, and I don't know who the other 3 are.
From what it's really hard to say the worst governor. When in 2022, when they would have a governor's races, I thought Murphy in New Jersey was the worst governor, just based on the statistics of New Jersey.
Right.
And like Cuomo, he killed a lot of old people.
Right.
And actually, he had been told more directly than Cuomo that you can't do this.
Right.
Cuomo was probably told, but there were no witnesses.
Right.
In the case of Murphy, there were 2 witnesses. We told him he can't do it, but he went ahead and did it. And he did it because he thought he was hurting. They thought they were hurting the nursing home industry because the hospitals were getting all the money for the deaths.
Yeah.
So they put them in the nursing homes. So the nursing homes would get the money for the deaths. And of course, by putting them there, you get more deaths too.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
And in the testimony that was acquired, I don't know why they weren't prosecuted. They had people in their staff saying, well, they're only old people. A bunch of old people. It's not,
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you.
Except if it was your grandmother or your mother.
Right.
How about all the people that died that never get to see them?
Yeah, it was horrible. I had friends of mine. I had many friends of mine that one of them was in Bob Seger's band, Alto Reed. We couldn't get to see him because they wouldn't let you. Nobody could go in. I had relatives died, a father-in-law of mine, and during that time, we were fortunate. We were able to see him right at the end. But so many places, and Minnesota was one of the worst. We had. During that time, the nonsensical things, not just with that, but we had to eat outside in snowbanks. You know that, right? You couldn't eat in the restaurants, so you go outside and they set you up.
Right.
Whose ever plate melted faster,
right.
And then Tim Walz, he actually told us we could have only 10 people in our houses for Thanksgiving or Christmas, or both of them. And I remember my daughter calling up and go, Dad, you can't come over. The neighbors can turn you and do 90 days in jail. I said, oh, really? I said, I don't care. I said, I'll do the time. I mean, it was crazy. Then I remember him, I had all these masks before I knew they didn't work. And I was right before the 2020 election, I was going to donate them all. The state of Minnesota said they needed them. And Waltz's office said, no, we won't take them from Mike Lindell unless it's after the election, because it would have got publicity of, good publicity, I guess. And so I called him up. I said, I'm going to make a big deal out of this. If you don't take these, you need them. And he says, okay, but there can be no media there.
and or they have parked across the street. So we pull up with the big My Pillow truck. Well, his lady that he sent there, I think she got the virus or something, so she couldn't make it. So one of his other workers got there, and it was her last day. She didn't like him, and she goes, "Bring those trucks over here." Bring those trucks.
You know, I've always wanted to ask you this because we talked about Tampon Tim quite a bit, you know, during the election, because
Right.
you know him so well. Do you realize that all through that campaign, nobody raised all the times he went to China?
No,
I mean, to me, as someone who has been on this China thing for 10 years, and I think China has more effectively than any country infiltrated us,
yeah.
to have the facts that you had, nobody, even the right wing press wouldn't, if there is such a thing.
Yeah, there is anything. That's
I mean,
such a
but
thing. That's why
the guy went to China 30 times.
they just
He
suppress it.
was trained in China. His, as far as I can tell, although nobody bothered to look, at least look, his business was funded by China because it was to bring people to China. He brought 50 kids to China per year. Unless you're an idiot, it obviously was for the purpose of brainwashing them.
100%.
They're not going to let him go to China to teach the kids that China is a horrible, murderous dictatorship that takes away all your rights.
Right. And that was the Minnesota, the media.
And
They just kept it on the down low. Do you know, before the 2020 election, now I was going to run for governor against him, right? And before, that was just the rumor that flew. He spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, and he sent out flyers to every single household in Minnesota saying, "Do you want this guy?" He had a picture of me. "Do you want this Trump supporter, you know, running for governor in our state?" It was this slam on me before I even announced I was running. Of course, then they stole the election. I said I wouldn't run to be a dog catcher until we secure these.
But you know, Mike, it's like nobody cares for the country. We'd have had a guy who, unless he did, what I would say about him was this: unless he answers these questions, Tampon, I had to call him Tampon. Unless you answer these questions, Tampon, I have a right to assume that you're a communist.
Yeah.
Because there are just too many of them and you're not answering. So when somebody has a lot of questions they don't answer, even unless it's a criminal case, you're allowed to draw the inference that the answer is a bad answer.
Right.
So if my question to him is, if you went there 30 times and you taught 30 times, wasn't it approved by the CCP, what you taught? We wouldn't answer that question, right? So I have to assume, yeah, it was dictated by the CCP. If they gave you all this money, they must have been happy with you as a nice little communist.
That's right. And you know what I say? I was just asked this question today. Who stole the 2020 election? Or, you know, who's behind it all? I say 4 people: the CCP, the Uniparty, the deep state, and the globalists. Those 4. And it's not always just Democrats, you know.
Well, they had them. You always have to look. I was taught at investigating crimes. You begin with the people who had the biggest motive. So if somebody stole the election, who's going to steal it? Maybe even more than Biden, China had the biggest.
Absolutely.
Because Trump is Trump really broke up the beautiful thing they had going for them, which is everybody trusted them. It was like Russia was bad, but they were good.
Right. Yeah.
Even our Republican, because it came from Nixon, even our Republican presidents treated them. And, you know, and we, unfortunately, Bush, the first one, very nice man, he was the ambassador to China.
Absolutely.
So he was completely brainwashed by the whole Chinese thing. It was like, and also the belief that if we do enough business there, we'll turn them into capitalists.
Right.
Instead, they do enough business here and turn us into communists.
That's, you know, you're exactly right. And I always looked at too, when you look at that, when you talk about finding crime in the last 4 years, for me, it's deviation in behavior that doesn't make sense. And when you have politicians making decisions that don't help either people, I'm talking people now, I don't care what party they're in, if it doesn't help the people, it's a very hidden agenda and it's a very evil agenda. And I'll tell you, there were so many states, Mayor, that I went to, which I expected to walk right in. It's a Republican, you know, whether it be a Republican attorney general or a Republican secretary of state. You get there and you get this complete shutout and you're going, why? Why aren't you looking into this?
God,
why? So there's, I could name a few: Brad Rassenberger, Robin Voss, John Merrill, but
the governor of
Kim-
Arizona, the
yeah,
governor
all of them.
of Georgia.
Yeah.
They're working for this.
Yeah. They're not, the governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp. I mean, these people had hidden agendas, and it's all going to come out because they're not on our team. They're not. It's not even common sense. It's like nonsensical things like. It doesn't make sense. Like I always said, if I was the marketer for, what I'd done with Biden, if I was his marketer, I would have said, "Hey, you guys, we stole that election, everybody. Let's not do anything. Let's not do anything stupid to ruin the country." And then they'll start thinking socialism is just like they think in college, just socializing with your buddy with a cup of coffee. They'll think it's good. Then we'll hammer them. Instead, they hit the ground running. They cut the pipeline, opened up the borders, and just hit. They did never believe that we would have the miracle we had on the 2024 election. They just believed that they had it all. So let's just.
They really, you're absolutely right. They went overboard.
They went overboard. Evil is greedy. Evil is greedy. And that's our biggest.
Biden and Obama did some of that.
Yeah.
Clinton and Obama did something like
Obama,
that. Clinton, the first 2 years, tried universal Hillary care and a whole bunch of left-wing stuff that didn't work. And then he wasn't going to win.
Right.
So he did the triangulation with Dick Morris. He took all the Republicans. I'm going to end welfare as you know it. I'm going to do the crime bill.
Right.
I'm going to get tough on the Soviet Union. I'm going to build up the military. So by the time he went to the election, because he's totally unprincipled, he'd do anything he had to do to win. He had all our issues. And then he went back left again.
Right.
And then Obama did the same thing.
Yeah.
He went left, not as bad as Biden. And I think if we had a better candidate than Romney, we would have beaten him. I think Romney could have won if he had some kind of a personality. If he had a personality,
right?
I think Trump would have won. I think Trump would have won in 12, just as much as in 16.
Oh yeah.
Because I think people were looking for somebody that made sense and had a certain amount of charisma.
Well, I think now, what's happened now is this is a party of common sense. And if we get our elections secure with paper ballots hand counted, it's 70. I think it's a 70-30 country. I really do. I think people are pouring into this bucket of common sense. And like I used to tell the president, I go back in the day when he kept getting indictments, he goes, "Mike, what are they thinking out there?" And I go, "Sir, everybody's pouring into this bucket from both sides." I said, "You keep getting indicted, you're going to have more votes than voters like Pennsylvania."
Well, I think
there's some truth to that. The people seen through the garbage. They've seen through that. The 34-0 that deal was it on one of the charges. The 34-0. Remember that?
Yeah.
I told him, I said, "Sir, you got to pray for either 34-0 for or against you, because no one's going to believe either one."
Right.
They 34-0. They got greedy. Now, if I sat there and I'm going, "You guys, let's make it look good," like we even looked at it. Let's make it 29 innocent, 5 guilty.
Right.
Then we'd all thought at least they looked at it, right? They didn't even deliberate enough time to come out 34-0 count. They're all 34 counts. Nobody believed it. Even people on the left didn't believe it. And he said to me, he goes, "Yep, you were right. It's we got washed away in the news because it was just garbage. 34-0. Even the Nazis were guilty. Maybe innocent of not jaywalking. You know what I mean? Give me a break.
I think it actually did happen, Mike. I think that they were slated to indict him in Arizona after Georgia. And I believe that the Democrats nationally, because Biden was orchestrating all those. I think they said, "Geez, if we indict him there, he'll get elected by acclamation."
Right.
But one more indictment and this thing's over.
It's over. That's right.
Yeah, I think the first couple of times they thought it would work.
But then after that, it just kept building.
Then they realized, my God, every time we indict him, he goes up 10 points.
Yes, because people were going into this bucket.
And all Arizona would have been as a carbon copy of Georgia.
Georgia, 100%. They had to quit doing that.
I'm still indicted in that case, and Trump is still indicted in the Georgia case.
Right.
I am too.
Wow.
And I was really unhappy that I got indicted in Arizona by myself, because my one consolation in going to jail, if I go to jail with him.
Right.
I mean, they'll treat him nice in jail, so I could go. I could piggyback on that. When I went into the Georgia, I went the day before he did to get fingerprinted and photographed, sort of as a
Did you
test.
practice your photo too?
As a test. No, I wasn't as good. I just did a regular photo. In Arizona, I smiled.
Did you?
Yeah, it's a real. They don't even use it. I went, so I walk in, and they I think they just did this on purpose. They had us walk through the whole prison. So you walk. I mean, we should have come in over here, like over here. We came in over here, and then we had to go through 2 prison lockups, and all the prisoners were standing there waiting for us. And I thought, oh my God! Every time I've been a prosecutor most of my life, and even when I've been a defense lawyer to go visit my clients in prison, they boo me. They know somebody I put in jail. I walked past the first one. I said, "Oh, it's gonna be terrible." I get a standing ovation.
Wow. Yeah.
And they're
That's
yelling out all kinds of horrible things about Fanny.
Yeah.
I mean, really, stuff
Isn't
like
that
that.
something? Because that's the
Then I go to the
people
second
see
group,
through it.
they applaud again. Then I do the thing. I come out and they applaud again, and they applaud again. So I told the president that, and did the same thing for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
When they came in, and there, of course, there were about 60% black, 40% white,
Yeah.
and not the group you would think would be voting for. You know?
Right.
They didn't like her.
I remember the president. He said something about you want to get a mugshot. I said, well, I could give you advice on that. I've had quite a few. He goes, you have it. I go, you read my book. Come on. Now that they take my pictures everywhere, you go through wherever I'm at, and they'll go, do you mind if I get a picture? I said, absolutely. I said, in the old days, the only one that wanted my picture were the cops.
So, Mike, give us a little. Now that it's a couple months, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, how's it going? How do you see it going? I mean, you put your life into this.
I think I'm very happy. I just met with the president a couple of weeks ago, and I think with the election platforms to get to paper ballots hand count, I think the dream's going to come true. 132 countries have banned the computers in the elections, and over 100 have banned early voting. And we've got a good plan from the bottom up, and he's doing stuff from the top down. That he keeps saying it. We're going to go to paper ballots hand counted, and he wants to make it same day voting and get our elections secure. I really don't want to see this, and I told him I don't want to see all the greatness that's going to happen the next 4 years. We just pouring in be in vain. We can't go back, and I believe it all starts with our elections. They've got to be secure.
Do you think that because he's not on the ballot, they'll feel a little more? If we don't do something, they'll feel a little more comfortable cheating again?
I think if we don't get rid of this, get to paper ballots hand counted by the summer of 26, we're going to be in trouble, and that's about 18 months out where I feel we got to get rid of them. I think what goes on with in the primaries, I think that's where you see a lot of these rhino uniparty Republicans. That's where it's taken then. We know that from our research. I'm very happy right now. There's a big, Pete Sessions put in a big thing before Congress. That's in there now. We got to get the word out about that. And that's to get to our secure elections. And then I have teams on the ground with Cause of America in every single county in the country. We have successes everywhere right now. It was actually used in a lot of this last election in a lot of counties. And so I think there's going to be a lot of
Democrats uniformly oppose this?
No, that's
Is it like everything else where they vote like lockstep?
No, this is right now. We're finding it's a lot easier now that to get the Democrats. You remember they were on board, Amy Klobuchar and Kamala Harris in the movie Kill Chain in 2018. They all wanted the machines gone. They all wanted paper ballots. And of course, they all went silent in 2020. But now that our great president's in, we're finding on the ground that it's easier to work together now.
Yeah.
And we're getting it done.
Because if you would have passed a law, it would apply to all the congressional elections, all the Senate elections.
Oh yeah, it's got it. Yeah.
But it would have to get like 60 votes probably in the Senate, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that part. I know if everybody checks out right now, I have it posted on my X at Real Mike Lindell. But this his whole bill, or you can go to electioncrimebureau.com or lindellplan.com. We have it posted there, and it shows all the things. Well, how many you have to get, how many.
So the bill would provide that every election, every congressional election, House, Senate in America, it has to be paper ballots.
Paper ballots, yeah, yeah. And it's even got the security. We built
And the paper
the
has to be
security.
preserved.
The paper too is it's more secure than money that we
Yeah.
developed. It is a most
You know,
and, here's I want to tell you this part. With cameras now, you have people say, "Oh, that's going back in time like the Flintstones." No, now that we have cameras and you're seeing your number there and you're running this through it. Now, let's say you have to not, you just rewind the cameras. It's not that hard.
Right.
You know, it's beautiful. You know,
Well, unless you doctor the tape like they did in Georgia, and you take
let's cut out the tape.
you take out all the situations where they're double triple counting the ballot.
Yeah.
And then the judge looks at it and says, "Oh, that's okay."
Yeah. Isn't that something? Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing what they get away with.
No, it really is. No, I'm very confident though that we're going to get there. For me, it's been one attack after another. So I've been spending so much time being distracted with, I was just held in contempt with one of my lawsuits, Smartmatic. I'm held in contempt of court, you know.
Congratulations.
That's all over the news. So my lawyers are going, you know, we got to get this done. We've already given them all the information. I have nothing to hide. And I told my lawyer, we got to go on offense. I'm an offense guy. You know, go on offense, but it's all a distraction. That's like this Keith Ellison thing now with my recovery network. They don't want me focusing on paper ballots and counting, but I'm telling you, it's too late to close the gate. The cows are out of the barn.
Yeah.
Everyone's out there doing it. So, you know, maybe there was a time where if they would have got rid of my voice, maybe that we wouldn't have had that, but it's too late now. Everybody knows what would happen in 2020 and 2022 and 2023. And even this last election, there were 4 senators. Anyone watch it on the left, right? Go ahead and do a story on it. 4 senators and 9 congressmen that I know were stolen. You know,
what a difference that would make.
Yeah, well, you darn right it would. That'd be huge.
What a difference that would make. Oh my God, we'd be very close to having a 60.
Right, absolutely.
And I know Mike Johnson takes a lot of heat, but I wouldn't want to be him with that kind of majority.
No, that's right.
Get it passed. And then you got this guy and that guy and this guy, you know, and they're all, and I know the ones from New York, they're all worried about state and local taxes and the deduction of state and local taxes, and everybody else doesn't want it, and they're not going to get reelected. And
right.
I mean, it's really impossible. If you have like a 10 vote margin,
right, yeah.
you can figure out, well, I'll take care of his problems, and I can't take care of his, but I'll do that next time.
Right. Yep.
And that's how the great speakers and majority leaders would keep you happy. But now everybody's got to get together and be happy on something that hits them in very, very different ways.
Right.
It's very hard to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you know, I figured that they would do that. I think I told the president, I said, you know, just like if someone would have gave us China virus 2.0, we wouldn't have fell for all that stuff again. It would have all been different. Everyone wouldn't have been wearing masks. He wouldn't have been doing all these nonsensical things. If they would have stole this election, it would have been the same way. If they'd have stole it, you would have had the whole country going, we want an audit done. We want to open up these machines. We're just like if you had a bank here, you know, at the bank, if you had a problem, everything would have been opened up. And I think they said, well, you know what? It is like the president called too big to rig, you know, where it was too big.
That was true.
And they had to go, you know what? We can't do, remember the 65, 83 million, 65. How are you going to do it again? You know, someone asked, I was heard today, someone was telling me that they asked, well, was this election rigged? And they should have said yes, because where are those 15 million votes that I took from the Democrats?
So tell us before we have to finish, how's Lindell TV doing?
It's doing
I'm
great
on every day, but I can't
great.
see on the other side.
Right on. It's doing great, everybody. We've got, we got in the afternoon with the White House. We've got our gal Kara there, and then we have now on Capitol Hill. We've got Allison, and it's 3 hours, and then I have my show. It's on there, and so I'm getting back to. I want to get my show done every day now, and then you're.
That's really good therapy, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good therapy to do it. I say that my show saves me psychiatric bills.
Absolutely.
I can go tell you everything.
We want to get our voice bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And so we don't have, I told the president this too. One of the things we have now that we didn't have then is where everybody was canceled on January 7th and 8th of 21. 1.2 million Americans. The president lost his 100 million on Twitter, Jack Dorsey's corrupt Twitter.
Right.
And I said, now we have all these platforms that have opened up, Getter, Gab, True Social, our Vocal Social, which is right connected to Lindell TV. But having our voice now where we have, people aren't just watching Fox where you get no news. They're not going to, they're like a weather channel
Right.
that won't tell you about hurricanes or tornadoes.
Right.
But then you have all the left, and here you have Lindell TV. We tell it like it is, and our voice is getting bigger and bigger every day. And don't forget, everybody, we're publicly traded at FSBN. That's going to soon to be Mike Lindell Media Corp. But right now, you can. I want everybody to get involved, and that's what we need. And we have stuff that's, if people don't hear the news, if you don't hear the good things going on or the bad things going on, it's like if a tree falls in a forest, if nobody's there to hear it, did it really fall?
Oh,
and the Democrats used to say there isn't even a forest.
Yeah. I mean, it's awful. Yeah. But I mean, I think someone who analyzes this from England told me after the 2024 election that there is now, and although it's going to get bigger, there's now a sufficiently large group like us doing, let's say, independent broadcasting,
right?
That we pretty much match them.
Yeah.
And he said if the hard drive had come out in 24, everybody would have known about it.
Everybody would,
because of the additional online and
you're
podcasting and video casting and all that we're at about 50%.
Yeah.
And he thinks for the next election we'll be ahead.
And we will be. And this is what I've said. I've said in many of my speeches, everybody, on January 7th and 8th, when the 1.2 million Americans were deplatformed on Vimeo, Facebook, Twitter at that time, YouTube, all of it, our voice, and I compare this, I said, when I was growing up and when we had the black and white TVs, you turn them off and they all went down to a little tiny dot and you turn it back on, they all came back to life. That was our voice. And like Ronald Reagan said, we're like a light on the till. If that light goes out here, it goes out everywhere.
Right.
And that light was almost out.
Of course.
But what manifested out of that was all these media platforms, like you say, we're up to 50% now.
Right.
Our voice just expanded, and we're going to continue to expand until we have the bigger voice.
Yeah, and I know this is probably self-serving, but we're more interesting than they are. We actually talk about things.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, they go on and they go crazy. I mean,
we have fun doing it. We have fun doing it.
You know what I think? I think we've driven some of them crazy. They now say the weirdest damn things.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Whoopi Goldberg is blowing up.
Right. Oh yeah.
Give me a couple of the other. Maddow is going back to 1 day a week.
Oh really?
Yeah, she's going back to 1 day a week.
It's unreal.
Keith Olbermann's been having a few meltdowns. If you remember that guy,
Keith Olbermann. Is he still around?
He's still around, and he is melting down.
Where is he on?
I think he's kind of on his own thing, which out of everything I can criticize him for, I'm not going to criticize him for that.
He was a terrible
kind of doing his own thing, right?
He was a terrible sportsman.
Terrible, the worst, and he got awoken, so they threw him off. They threw him off ESPN first. I think he was making fun of kids or something.
He used to go to Yankee games. I used to sit next to the Yankee dugout, and he sat over here, and he would look at me like I was some kind of a. A couple of times I tried to say hello to him, and I think he thought he was going to get a disease if he said hello to me. He really is. He really is a strange bird.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, we get big enough. We'll have to have Jimmy Kimmel on our show. We'll put him in some kind of a claw machine.
Yeah, we gotta play that. We gotta play that clip. Find that.
Yeah,
Mike in the claw machine.
Yeah, we were just talking about that tonight. It was on his show twice, but he bashes me almost. For a while, there was almost every night they had a fake mic on there, and he would just take turns bashing me and the president.
I don't know how people can watch it. They're not even funny.
No.
A couple of weeks ago, we were watching. Remember, Ted? We were watching Johnny Carson.
Oh,
those
Johnny
Carson.
Those were the days.
You couldn't stop laughing.
No, you could.
And even his delivery. He had a wonderful way. If a joke didn't work,
The work
He'd
is
make
still
like a
not-
funny face, and then you'd laugh. The joke was terrible, and then he'd go, "Oh boy,
Yeah, he would his reaction.
oh boy,"
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then everybody start laughing.
right. Yeah.
And he did do some political, but it was very, very even-handed.
Hmm.
You couldn't tell if he was a Democrat or a
No, you could
Republican.
not.
And the jokes that he made were tasteful. They,
Right,
you know,
yeah.
they were not. He's a monster, or he's Hitler, or
Right. Right.
they make fun of their, something they said wrong, or something they said that was strange, or some place they went.
Well,
But no bitterness to it. It was
Right.
it was pure humor.
Well, we all know the mayor has both been featured on Saturday Night Live, and you've been a number of actors have played you. My question is to Mike: Have you yet risen to Saturday Night Live levels?
To make fun of him?
At least 8 times.
Okay, okay.
Oh, yeah, at least 8
I've seen
times.
him make
Yeah,
fun.
yeah.
You know, I think I have seen it. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least 8 times. And the funny thing is actually it was, I don't know how many were after the 2020 election. They were mocking me before that.
They were on
Back in the day.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
pillows.
the advertising.
They used to go after you on the
They
advertising.
mocked me. They had a guy holding
Wow.
a pillow, and
I thought that was
and,
good for you.
oh, yeah.
I'm
sure
yeah.
it was.
I
Yeah,
thought that
but
was
no,
really good.
I actually made the biggest one for me so far, I think, was Showtime. It was called My Cartoon President. And on season 2, episode 2, once they got me on, they kept me on the whole time. And a lot of the stuff came true that they had. I mean, it was me talking in the Rose Garden, and you had all these. We come across the border, me and my son and my nephew, in I think it was 2017 or something. We go, look at they made a cartoon about me, and it was me speaking in the Rose Garden, and I'm sitting there, and the president goes, "Here's Mike. I got my good friend Mike Lindell. He showed up or whatever." So you could see Jim Acosta and everybody out in the Rose Garden, and I do this speech, but it was just like the one that I actually did 2 years later in real life, and it was funny because they go. Then the president, he kind of pushed me out of the way. He goes, "Okay, any questions?" And they all raise their hand. They go, "Any questions not about crack?" And all their hands come down. Me being an ex-crack addict, right?
In the show.
That was in the show. Yeah,
Okay.
that was in the show.
Of course.
But it was the weird thing was 2 years later, he actually had me at the Rose Garden, and I get up there and speak, and Jim Acosta, they're all in the same spot, and I'm talking. I'm up there talking about Jesus and the Bible, and they, their heads blew up for a week. Yeah, their heads blew up for a week.
So he knows this, but here's an example of what he's saying, and these things drive me crazy. So last weekend there was a big slaughter in Syria, and they killed maybe 1,000 Christians, and a few independent papers reported it. Christian papers, even some of the Israeli papers reported.
Yeah.
The New York Times ignores it.
Yeah.
Everybody here ignores it. Even the Post ignores it. And the Wall Street Journal covers it. They don't say Christians were killed. They call it sectarian killing. The new terrorist groups that took over Syria, which is Sunni, is although Assad was a maniac, he wasn't as anti-Christian as this group, because his tribe, the Alawites, have a very long relationship with the Christians because they live in the same part of Syria. So he didn't persecute the Christians as much. If a Christian was against him, he'd kill him, but he wouldn't just go after the Christians. So the terrorist group that's taken over, which is Sunni, attached with Saudi Arabia as opposed to Iran, that's good for us. So they're not working with Iran, but they really hate Christians.
Right.
So in one weekend, they killed it wasn't 1,000, it was 1,000 people.
Wow.
750 were Christians, and the other were Alawites. And they said, well, they were all supporters of Assad. Now, the Christians weren't even allowed to be supporters of Assad.
Oh.
They were neutral. They had to be neutral on Assad.
Right.
And they intend to wipe out all the Christians in Syria. And then the Wall Street Journal says, oh, there was a very unfortunate group of sectarian kill. You can't even tell it was Christians who were being killed.
No. And who writes for the Washington Post? I mean, you got
The Wall Street Journal.
It's Wall Street Journal. Well, even the Wall Street Journal.
It's terrible.
Why? Yeah. What is wrong with these journalists?
And everything that has gone wrong is now because of tariffs. Now, almost none of these tariffs have even gone into a place yet. He just said he's going to do it.
Right.
So the higher prices are all because of the tariffs. Except now gas has gone down,
Mm-hmm.
and gas is now lower than it was when Trump came into office. The inflation rate has now gone down.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the other one that we had? And what?
Eggs.
And eggs have gone down.
I see that one. I see that one.
The same tariffs.
Right.
They don't bother to write, well, gee, maybe we're wrong. I mean, it's and then in the tariffs with Mexico were going to kill us. Well, so Scheinbaum, the president of Mexico, organizes a big festival for about 4 or 5 days ago in right outside of Mexico City in the festival ground. There's going to be a protest against Trump.
Right.
It turns into a protest for Trump because they agreed on the tariff.
Well,
and the biggest labor leader in Mexico, who's a pure communist, gets up and says, "This is wonderful. This is the best era of cooperation we've ever had."
mm-hmm.
And of course, 2 weeks earlier, they're predicting we're going to be at war with them.
Going to be a war. Do you know back in the first term with the president, when he got into with Canada, Trudeau actually put a tariff specifically on my pillow. So I was really big in Canada. I was huge in Canada, and I was on their shopping channel, all over Rogers TV, all the newspapers, and all the box stores. And anyway, so he puts this tariff on my pillow. It's like it was a big tariff, like 35%. It would be impossible to make it.
Yeah.
So so I get a hold of his office. I didn't talk to him directly. We get in this battle. What they wanted, they said, okay, if you build a plant in Canada, factory in Canada, then there'd be no tariffs. Well, I had a distribution thing up there, and I stood up. I said, "You're not going to blackmail me like that." Well, it got to be 2 weeks before the shopping channel that I was going on. It was just a couple $1 million day. It was huge, and for my employees and stuff, I said. So I waited till the last possible day to be able to say yes. Okay, we'll do it, but it has to be here. They want it in Windsor. I said no. Do it where my plant was outside of Ottawa or wherever it was, and. Anyway, this is kind of a good story. Well, now I had to get the materials, and I had to have my workers go up there, just like in Armageddon. I needed my workers to train them how to use the machine.
Right.
So we have to fly into Canada, and we're taking this plane full of people. I don't even know if they had passports. I'm not kidding. They went through them, probably fresh out of jail. These addicts.
By the time you didn't need passports.
Well, anyway, he says. So he just cleared it. Oh, you're with this group. So he did do that. They just stamped their stuff, and the trucks that rolled through of all the pillow, the patented foam and stuff. They just rolled it through. And they made it up there in time. We made the pillows, but he, I know what that could do. I mean, but he specifically picked on my pillow back then. Because of my relationship with the president. Whatever.
But when you did do the factory, they keep their end of the deal?
Yeah, they kept their end of the deal. Good. Well, they cleared, so it wasn't bad. They kept their end of the deal, and we had a distribution center anyway, but it was still, it actually turned out better because we could ship them from up there then too. It was.
Do we put a tariff on their pillows or on pillows that come into the United States from overseas?
I don't know.
I doubt it.
I doubt it. No. And see, I was never tariff because they're 100% made in the USA.
Yeah.
Right. So they would tariff if it wasn't made all here, then Canada was tariffing them. But he tariffed my pillow. I was the first one. I told him, no, mine are 100% made here. He goes, I don't care. Now you're going to make it in Canada. I said, okay. So it wasn't a bad thing, No.
You agree with reciprocal tariffs, right?
Yeah, oh yeah,
absolutely. If they put a 20% tariff on my pencils, I should be able to put a 20% tariff on your pencils.
People keep calling me. They're going, your friend's going to ruin everything, the stock market and everything. I'm going, you know what? This will all manifest out to a beautiful thing.
It is.
Once it's a fair playing field,
No, on a fair playing field, given our dominance in almost everything, we'll just do very, very well.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you think about it, China is doing well because of us. Everything they have that came from us. Mm-hmm. We essentially completely organized the Chinese economy because of the con job that they did on Nixon and Kissinger, and then everybody after them,
right?
Including some of our Republicans who thought if we just make them capitalist enough, they'll come over to our side, not realizing they were conning us from the very beginning.
Right, that's right.
Much more shrewd than the Russians.
So do you think Canada will be the 51st state?
No. I think Greenland might be. You know, if I would like to run you and I should go run the campaign in Greenland to make sure they don't cheat. You know, there are only 55,000 residents of Greenland, and
they could easily be convinced. I think.
Of course they can.
Yeah.
You know, somebody made a recommendation. I don't know if this would be a bribe. That it would only cost us like 250 million to buy all their votes.
Right.
To say by saying if you become an American, we'll give you a grant of $250,000.
I think all it would take is the president flying up there and having a rally. That's a small rally for him.
Yeah.
To say, okay, let's vote on it. All raise your hands.
They've changed the poll. The polls now show that a very small percentage believe it. But the very first poll that was taken, something like 60% of the 45 or 55,000 were in favor of it.
Right. Yeah.
Now I think they're either lying about the polls or they're trying to brainwash the people. But but here's what they do want: they all want to be free of Denmark.
No.
And by over 50%, they want a stronger relationship with the United States. What they really like is for us to protect them,
right,
but be free.
Right.
So there's a deal that can be made there by somebody like Trump.
Absolutely. I think so.
I think I think Panama Canal. One of these days we're going to wake up. He's going to take it.
Oh yeah.
Unless those Chinese get the hell out of there, he's going to take it.
Yeah.
And under the treaty, he has every right to do it.
Mm-hmm.
The treaty says that we have the right to intervene militarily to save the neutrality of the canal. And we get to decide that by ourselves. We don't have to tell. We don't have to tell Panama. Right. If the neutrality of the if they're controlling two locks, the neutrality is
right. Well, he must have checked into that when he said it to me the first time. I'm going,
yeah,
really? We're just going to take it? I'm going,
no, I didn't know that. When he said it, I thought, oh my God, what is he doing? And then I went and read about it.
Yeah.
There were two treaties. One gave him the canal, but the other gave us the right to militarily interfere.
Right.
If in our judgment, it's the neutrality of the canal is they own it. They continue to own it. We don't take over ownership, but in essence, we run on the military law.
Right.
Forever if we want.
Right. And we should.
But why should we have China? I mean, you remember the Bay of Pigs? I mean, we almost had a nuclear war because they're going to put Russians in Cuba. Well, now we got the Chinese communists in the Panama Canal. This is ridiculous.
Right.
Well, we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we'll wrap up and give you an idea what we're going to do tomorrow night. We'll be right back.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month.
Wow.
Including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news, even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax, channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly, where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast. These deals are selling out.
U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.com.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans. No Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
This is Rudy Giuliani back with you, and you see Mike Lindell here with me. So tomorrow, maybe we'll get an answer from Putin about the agreement, right? And we'll see if we can make some progress in Israel and get that straightened out. Also, is the government going to close down or not? Sounds like Schumer wants to close it. And we don't have the votes to stop it because we'd have to get 60. We'd have to get 60 in the Senate. So if we don't get probably 7 Democrats to join us, they close the government down. Now, I know people get. I don't want to sound flippant about it, but I've gone through several government shutdowns. I think the last one for him was. Gosh, it would about 2018 or 20. It was at Christmas time.
Yep, I remember that. Yeah.
And he had to stay at the White House.
Yep, I remember that.
And I stayed with him.
Oh, you did?
I felt sorry for him.
Oh.
I felt like he's gonna be an orphan in the White House.
Yep, I do remember that.
We had the greatest time.
Yep, I was at Mar-a-Lago.
All we did, first of all, we just watched football.
Yep.
And he walked around, and he had somebody come in every day and take whoever was there on a tour with him of the. So we got to learn all the historic places.
Oh.
So we found places where General Grant used to keep some of his secret, his secret records, and his friend McKinley, where McKinley used to write. And I mean, there for each one of these presidents, there's somebody you can bring in,
right?
And they would take them all over the White House. This is where Theodore Roosevelt liked to sit, and he just loved it.
Yeah.
So I would say to him,
awesome.
I would say to him, it's terrible. He said, "What? I'm like a kid. This is fabulous. Imagine being locked up in a White House." Wow. Which shows you how enthusiastic he is about America, about
absolutely.
I mean, and
when I seen him just a week and a half ago, he goes, "Look at this, Mike." He showed me all the pictures and stuff in the Oval Office there, and
it reminds me of Ronald Reagan, who loved being president.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the people who make the best presidents love America,
right?
You know, and I think you sure as hell some of them some I think hated America, right? And of course Biden didn't even know it was America. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and we need you to pray for Israel, and we need you to pray for the people in Ukraine who are being killed now for nothing just because they're delaying these 2 guys, and. Of course, the people of Iran, who we want to be free, and the people of America and everybody else. And of course, we'll see you tomorrow night. God bless America. It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk.